Hello and welcome to From the Writer's Desk, episode 6. I'm coming to you from a lovely, honestly sunny winter's day in the north of England. We've just been hit by a storm and it feels like that has passed now. And here we are, it's lovely and bright and I'm off out to enjoy it soon. But first I want to talk to you a little bit about The Running Man by Stephen King and then give you a writing update from me this week. So Stephen King has another adaptation in this, and it feels like this year he's had many adaptations. I think maybe 3 or 4 different ones. And one of the reasons that we can have so many adaptations is because he writes so many books. The Running Man in particular is what I want to talk about today because he's been doing press for it and he's told a story that he wrote The Running Man in 1 week. There was a blizzard outside. He couldn't get out anywhere. He was pretty poor at the time. He wanted to write something that was popular, and dystopian fiction was big at the time. And so he locked himself in his little trailer that he had and he wrote it in 1 week. Now, as someone who has been doing NaNoWriMo this month and who was hoping to write, or is hoping to write 50,000 words in a month, The Running Man is 80,000 words long, roughly. That's, if you write that in a week, that's about 11,000 words a day, which to me just seems absolutely insane. And it is a good reminder that all writers are different. My pace is probably around, I can write, judging by what I've been doing so far, by the way, I've been streaming my NaNoWriMo attempt online, but judging what I have been writing so far, I can write about 1,000 words in an hour, but I would describe them as 1,000 bad words. Like, it's pretty rough, there's no depth, it's all just surface. Whereas Stephen King allegedly published this novel pretty much as a first draft, having written it in a week. I can probably write, in good words, I can probably write 300 good words in an hour, and everyone's ratio is going to be slightly different. Now, Stephen King is obviously just a titanic talent, and not all of us are going to be able to achieve those levels of speed. And I actually don't think The Running Man, I read it recently, I don't think it's a brilliant novel, but it's pretty good and it's a good romp. And it's so impressive if what he says is true. However, we're all different. We all have to go at our own pace. Having said that, I've come up with, I think, 3 reasons why The Running Man in particular is, he was able to write that so quickly. I think there's like 3 main points, and it is good advice, I think, generally, if you're trying to write something, if you're trying to do a challenge like NaNoWriMo even, where you want to cover 50,000 words in a short space of time. These are 3 things that you might want to keep in mind. I guess it's a guide for writing a short novel quickly. The first thing is keep it simple. The Running Man follows one protagonist, and that is it. You know, we don't even have much backstory. We're sort of launched into it, and he goes off on his adventure. There are no B plots. There's just one plot, one character. We're just in his head the whole time, and we go right through to the end. I have tried in the novel that I'm writing to do 2 perspectives, and even I am finding that I'm shifting to one most of the time, 80% of the time, because it's just easier to get through it. That way you can tap into that one perspective and you can just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. So I'm guilty generally of overcomplicating things. So if you do want to write something quickly, keep it simple. The other thing, there's a specific type of narrative that I think The Running Man is. I would describe it as a one thing after another narrative. It is a novel constructed of a sequence of try-fail cycles. So you have our protagonist and he goes out and there's an obstacle he's got to overcome and he overcomes it, and then there's another obstacle and how's he going to overcome that, and sometimes he succeeds, sometimes he fails, and then we have all of these different branching paths. You know, there's not really any time to slow down, there's not really any time to explore a place, there's not really any time to explore even the history or of this thing and what's going on, only in little colourful details sprinkled here and there. It's just one thing after another, one problem after another you've got to solve, and then here's another problem you've got to solve again and again and again. It's not the most complicated plot in the world, so it ties into that initial thing. There are no real relationships that we've got to grow. There's nothing really other than the plot and a sequence of problems that this protagonist has to overcome. That'll be the second thing. And the third thing is this is especially true of science fiction and fantasy, and the thing I'm writing at the moment, what I find is that the writing is the slowest when I'm in a new place that I don't really even understand, and I've got to think about what is the technology, what does this world look like, what is the politics, all of this sort of stuff. What the Running Man does well, and what is helpful to think about, is when you are, and this maybe is a good general rule anyway, but when you are dealing with the speculative, it's always a good idea, especially if you're trying to write quickly, not to do what someone like Brandon Sanderson might do and invent new fauna and worlds and political systems and ideologies and things like this, but just to twist the familiar. And this is what dystopian fiction generally does quite well. It is a twist on the familiar. What takes some things that we know, and how can we just twist that a little bit so it's weird, or so it's more extreme, or so it has a different sheen to it. And the Running Man does this throughout. We're twisting game shows, we're twisting, the dark parts of cities, the underbellies of cities, we're just turning that up to 11, so to speak. And so he's not necessarily having to think of new creative solutions or ideas. It's just, what is something I know, and how can I just twist that a bit to make it more extreme and to make it different? And I think all of those things mean he was able to pump it out quite quickly. But, the other thing, of course, is just that he's Stephen King, and he can do what a lot of us can't, unfortunately. But, there are other authors that are brilliant out there that are also very, very slow, and we probably sit somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. So I just wanted to talk about that today because it's fresh of mind. The Running Man's just come out. I haven't seen it yet. I probably will go and see it. Let me know if you've seen it and how it is in the comments. But other than that, that is what I wanted to talk about today. And now we're just going to do a quick writing update. So let's go to the computer. As I say, I've been doing NaNoWriMo, so we've made a good amount of progress this week in terms of word count. So we're at 61,000 words out of 100,000 words now. I was hoping to get to the halfway point with the novel, but I had some technical issues on Saturday. I showed up for the stream. I was hoping to hit 20,000 words, and my internet just died a death. And because I have it in my head that I don't just want to write 50,000 words, I want to stream it. I want evidence of it. I had to sort of abandon the writing this weekend while I fixed my Wi-Fi issues. So hopefully they'll be sorted very, very soon. And as I say, I've said this in previous episodes, but I have taken a week off at the end of November to wrap up anything that needs wrapping up. So yeah, we're at 61% for the word count goal for the year, 43% in terms of how many novels we've written. And because we've been doing NaNoWriMo, there are no progress on short stories or submissions and rejections. However, this is worth highlighting. We've got a new best week, which was this week, in which I wrote 10,000 words. If we just go over to the writing section for a second, we can see that our novel here, Asteroid Tomb, is sitting at 44%. And this was the week. I took Tuesday off. And then I've had 4 days of roughly 2,500-ish words, which puts me over 10,000. So we're not at halfway, but we will pass the halfway point probably tomorrow. And we'll see where we get to by the end of the week. Hopefully we'll be close to 35,000. And then that leaves us 15,000 to clean up in the final week there. So yeah, some technical issues, which is a shame, that held me back this week. But we'll get back on it next week. We'll hit that halfway point and we will shoot beyond it. So that is the end of this week's episode of From the Writer's Desk. Let me know in the comments, how has your week been? Are you doing NaNoWriMo? How is it going? I would love to know. And if you're one of the people who've been joining along on the streams and writing along with me, my apologies for the technical hiccups this weekend, but we should be back to it next week. And I just want to thank you as well for coming along, and I hope your writing is going well. So other than that, yeah, I'll be back for a video on Wednesday as usual, and then I'll see you next week for episode 7 of From the Writer's Desk. I'll see you then.